Can all of you see this? Okay, I'm gonna take that.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you. So, yes, my name is Grace, and I'm an occupational therapist from the batch of 2012. And I'm currently working in Handimachal Therapy Center up in Kullu, Manali, here in Himachal Pradesh. I came here right after my bond. Um, so I would like to welcome you all to the Kullu Valley. I don't know how clear the video is, but I hope it is. So this is a shot of the Kullu Valley from one of our community visits. Um, so the work that we do as part of Handimachal ranges all the way from Kullu town to Manali. So Manali is about an hour away. So before we go into the work that I'm doing, I'd like to just ask you all to take a small picture as everyone works with disability. So this shouldn't be too hard to imagine. Imagining there are two sides of the valley and a river. And on one side, you have about 26.8 million people with disabilities. And this is this is all over India, but this is the 2011 census. I don't think there's been a survey after that. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Out of that, 7.87 are children and adolescents. And in that, there's 1,55,316 in Himachal Pradesh alone. And this is just children. So there's a great need for rehabilitation here within the state, throughout the country, I'm sure. And then on the other side of the valley or of the river, we see a terrible lack of or inadequate rehabilitation services in the state. Just based on what I know, there are only two therapy centers throughout the district, and ours is the only one that has a complete multidisciplinary rehab team. And that's the entire district of Kulu, which is quite large, and it's not sufficient to kind of bear the need that is there. So Himachal Pradesh has its own, I'm sure, I don't know how many of you have visited Kulu Manali, but I'm sure some of you have. You'll know that the terrain is quite difficult. Bridging that gap between the number of children that require therapy and the actual availability of services or the government's provision of therapy services, which you already know is quite bad. But there is a separate struggle, which is native or which is actually in which is actually mostly present in this geographic condition. So I'm sure like people who are in bond hospitals up in Dehradun and Assam and all can testify that, children with disabilities require long-term rehab, frequent consultations, there's severe stigma of disability, absolutely like horrible awareness of how disability is caused, what we can do after it. There's a terrible delay in seeking treatment. A lot of the children are identified far too late, and even the hospitals that are present, they do not have enough awareness or knowledge or experience to be able to identify special needs children early on. So by the time they come to us for therapy, it's quite late. And any multidisciplinary center is either too far or too expensive. And this is not just for therapy, but even for basic medical services. Many people in the Kulu Valley have to travel all the way to Chandigarh or to Delhi to receive neurology services or even a proper evaluation of their children. And many of the children that cannot afford to do that. And the terrain is quite difficult, especially considering the weather conditions. It's quite cold here for many months of the year. Um, and many of the children, as you, it's probably the same throughout the country, but many of the children schools or simply on the attendance register. So this is a struggle that comes in trying to bridge that gap. Now, that's where Handimachal Therapy Center was formed, in an attempt to bridge that gap between the number of children and the availability of services. So, Handimachal Therapy Center was founded about 10 years ago. Um, uh, um, the vice president of a French NGO had visited the Kullu Valley to do a survey of schools when she met a couple of children with Down syndrome in school and realized that they absolutely have no awareness nor availability of therapy services throughout the district. Seeing that need, she took action, and with one occupational therapist, she was able to start this therapy center, and it's been able to grow to where it is right now. So, in an attempt to bridge the gap, these are the services that we now provide. There's a primary therapy center, community-based rehabilitation, school readiness program where we get the children ready for preschool, and also provide training and awareness for teachers in regular schools so that there can be inclusive education, parent support by support groups, or even workshops to teach them how to deal with their children, how to help their children, and awareness camps for the general public. So the current reach of Handimachal, we have more than 650 children registered at our primary center. This is throughout. Currently, we have about 60 registered with us who are currently doing therapy. And there are more than 20 children currently who are under the community workers' care. And these children under CBR are spread across Kulu and Manali in different towns and different areas. The organization has been able to empower 10 schools throughout the district and help them be more, try to be a little bit more inclusive, admit children, have a special educator, or help them as much as possible. And more than 60 awareness camps were held across the district, and even local hospital OPD visits for early intervention. So these are the milestones that Handimachal has been through over the years. I'm not going to, talk too much about this. It's just a procedure. They went, how they became who they are right now. Initially, Handimachal had ties with the Lady Wellington Hospital, Mission Hospital in Manali, and then they became independent after that. But we still provide therapy support to Daystar School, um, which is part of the Mission Hospital, and we hope to continue to do so. So in that way, we are in contact with the Mission Hospital quite frequently. Um, and right now, Handimachal Independent Society, and the latest 2 years ago started the Skilti Kalyan preschool program where children are made ready to attend school. Um, and introducing our team. So we have local board members, we have a society of people who are local residents of Himachal and Kulu who provide advice, give structured feedback. The people in the local board um, are actually part of the governing body, so they make decisions, help us local and legal administrative things. And of course, we have a multidisciplinary rehabilitation team. I myself am the occupational therapist. We have a therapist, a speech therapist, and a special educator as well, and 3 rehabilitation workers, and 2 support staff. We're a small team, but the need is great. So moving a little bit into more of the work we do, we have the primary therapy center. So in the primary therapy center, our main intervention is play. And because we have all 4 disciplines, we try to work towards integrated interdisciplinary goal setting and approach towards the children. We have children of all kinds of diagnoses. Many of them are not actually formally diagnosed because they cannot afford to go and to a hospital or to Chandigarh to Delhi to get diagnosed. We work with them with however we can help them. And there are a couple of children who have made it all the way down to CMC to get assessed metrics and come back to us over the years. Um, excuse me. So the children who come to us are assessed by the occupational who then decides which therapies the children must receive. We have children with all kinds of cerebral palsies, autism, ADHD, syndromes, neuromuscular disorders. So the main strength that we have right now is collaborative goal setting. All our home programs are collaborated. All our treatment goals, the parent therapist meetings are all collaborated. So that is what an approach that has been working very well over the past year. We also have events at the primary therapy center where we celebrate festivals, Deepavali, Independence Day with the children, lots of fun. There are parent training workshops. So this picture was taken in our old therapy center. We've currently relocated to a newer place. Um, and we have training workshops for the parents where we teach them different techniques in speech therapy or in OT like behavior modification and things like that that will help all of them collectively. And we are trying our best to move these children towards inclusive education. We have a few children who are already in schools integrated into a normal school setup, and we provide special educator support and also support to the teachers where we kind of handhold them, teach them how to, help their child in class, help their child be included among everyone in class and not seen as a separate individual or a different or lesser than person. And of course, group activities with all of the children and their parents. We've also been running a school awareness campaign where we're reaching out to different schools in the district and talking to the teachers about how they can better identify children who have learning disabilities, how they can support them further, and how they need to be taught life skills and not just academic skills as well. And we also provide support. So if they do identify children who need a screening or an assessment, they send them to us. We do that and we send them back and we help their teachers deal with them, help them in school. And we also give them once a week therapy sessions at the center to help them further. So hopefully we're going to be moving. Our vision is to be able to move Kullu or the town where we are towards a more inclusive society. We have hospital OPD visits, as I spoke about earlier. So this is the local government hospital here in Kullu. And one of the biggest awareness events that we have is the yearly annual Dasra Mela. So this year, sadly, because of COVID, it wasn't that big, but this is how it is usually. Every year, the entire town is blocked, and we select a week to go. We distribute pamphlets, talk about our work, we show videos, pictures, and have different awareness programs amongst the general public. And that is how we get referrals in one way. There are people from remote villages in the mountains who come down to gather supplies for the winter during this Dasara Mela. So they send children from their villages down here, or they tell us, there are people there who require therapy services. Yes, we'll give them your number. So that is how we receive referrals from these farthest remote villages. So for the Dasara Mela, as I don't know if most of you must already know, they have about 300 and something idols from all of the remote parts of Himachal. The gods and goddesses come down to the Kullu center and they set up camp for a month up till Diwali. And there's a and people from the entire state and region are in Kullu at that time. So that is one of our biggest awareness programs that we have annually. And that is our team, the CBR, our staff. Not everyone is there, but that's us. So now I just want to give you a little peek into the community-based rehabilitation, which is another one of our biggest projects that we have, and one of my primary focuses as an occupational therapist. So at the Primary Therapy Center, we now have 3 community-based rehab workers. Before I joined, they were trained in a few physiotherapy techniques like stretching, where one of the biggest barriers that we face right now, of course, is the terrain. So the picture on the left is taken somewhere around summertime. On the right was around the winter. So there are extremes of weather conditions and difficult terrain to navigate. It's very beautiful for us to come once in a while and visit, but for the children with disabilities, their parents, and for our CBR workers, it's very difficult to navigate this terrain on a daily basis. Oftentimes, the children in Manali have to take about an entire half a day to be able to reach us at the center for a 40 to 45-minute session. So they go through a lot of trouble carrying their children on their backs um, because often the roads are not accessible by vehicles. This picture in the community. Um, it's almost on a cliff and it's very difficult. That child is now 20 years old. They cannot carry him down those steps and down the hill on such a rugged terrain. It's not wheelchair accessible at all. So these are the topographical barriers that we face here. And this is just one example. So um, we often have to leave, as you see on the right side, we have to exit the car or the vehicle and then climb up the mountain to reach the children's homes. So it takes a lot of walking, a lot of hiking um, to reach these children. And our community based rehabilitation workers do this on a daily basis. And we only go once a week and we get really tired. But that's what it takes. So as you can see here, this is more examples of the rugged terrain that we face. Um, and this is just a video um, of the roadway to one of the houses. It's not very clear, but I'll try to show that to you later. So like I said, a lot of these pathways are only accessible by foot. So carrying their children all this way and then another 1 to 1.5 hours in the cab and all the way back is often not worth it. So that is where our CBR comes into play. And this is one of the homes of the children where the CBR is. So this is just a shot of the valley that I wanted to show you. So one of the other issues that we face is late identification because of the stigma that exists and because people do not find adequate therapy services for themselves. The children receive therapy very late, and even though the CBR does make it to the community, often they have severe contractures, deformities, and they're very malnourished. Many of them have recurrent seizures. The mission hospital is able to support them with the medication that they require, but not all children have been able to access the mission hospital in time. And often the children have severe scoliosis, pelvic tilt, and they're very deformed, but they're still very cheerful and they're very happy to see us whenever we go. And we enjoy visiting them as well. So one of the biggest barriers that I faced as an OT was trying to find a place where I can get the children adaptive aids, devices, AFOs, skaters. None of that is even in the main town of Kullu, none of those are available. And the nearest place where you can get custom-made AFOs is 4 hours away from Kullu. So many of the families even the families that can afford it often do not have the time or cannot um, figure out a way to, do not even know that such a center exists in Sundarnagar. So a lot of times, especially in the community, the children who they cannot carry down the mountain, it falls on us or me to make them those aids and modifications in their homes. So I carry this little toolkit with myself, and we try to make aids. So I've managed to make resting hand splints out of PVC pipes and whatever materials that's available, Velcro. And I've recently make AFOs for one of my kids because of lockdown. All of the other centers that make them, even the one that's 4 hours away, was completely shut down, and the children needed them, so we had to make them. So here's my first pair of AFOs. So that's her. She's able to wear them, and even a lot of the gaiters are custom made. And even though there are many skilled carpenters and woodworkers here in Kullu, many of them are far too busy and cannot spare the time to make us adaptive devices. So, and many of the parents cannot afford actually like completely well-made devices. So, so we use foam. So the people here use foam sheets of mattresses to either sleep on or to sit on. So a lot of them have these in their homes, and we carry them with us when needed. So I've been able to make a CP chair kind of thing with with foam and with the necessary customized modifications, at least until we can get a carpenter to make them a better chair, a more sturdier chair. So this is how the CBR had tried her best to position this child um, before we made the chair. And this is how she was after using it for a while, and we've even made her a splint. So this is what we can do as OTs in the community. There are many things that we were taught and know how to apply them until you face that need. Um, I was always told in OPD during my bond that you can make splints out of PVC pipe, but I never had to because there were materials in PNO always available. But when faced with the challenge, you have to rise up to it. And I think CMC and OPSA does equip you for that. And I'm very grateful for those experiences. Um, like I said, no, it's not just the external terrain, but even internally. This is the home of one of the children that we visit on a regular basis. In order to preserve heat inside the house, they have small entrances, narrow doors. So many times the children are actually stuck inside the house. They can never leave because it's too difficult to carry them out or to take them anywhere. So this is one of the narrow staircases that you see on the left and the entrance door on the right. This is our previous therapist doing exercises with one of our children in the community. There are many sad stories that we come across. On the left, you see this child. She was left alone in her house. The door was unlocked when we went to visit her. She had a high fever. She even had mumps. It was a very sad sight to see. Often the families cannot afford to take care of their children because they're daily wage laborers. So they leave their children in the home with absolutely nothing um, and just go for work because that's how they earn their living. So our community-based rehab workers are actually these children's only hope, to be very frank. So many of these children really require these services. Coming on to COVID, we know that it's been a very difficult journey for all of us as rehabilitation specialists. So we have tried our best to adapt. We began online therapy sessions as much as we can for the children who can tolerate it, for the parents who have the time to sit with us and to do it with us. But still, there are many children that we have not been able to reach because of COVID. We've had parent support webinars. I've had a couple of friends take webinars, and we ourselves take classes for the parents, teach them different techniques on how to do things at home. And this is one of the cases that has become really bad during COVID, over the times that there's been no visiting their house over the lockdown, severe scoliosis, very malnourished, a lot of muscle atrophy. So this is one of the hardest things that we've had to deal with over here, post-COVID. So in the future, Handimachal, we have been funded by the NGO in France till now, but funds are running short, and we as an organization are hoping to become self-sustainable locally within India. We know that seeing the current economic situation, that's quite difficult, but we are trying our best to raise funds by ourselves, because our funds from France are running short. So our future plan is to, of course, make a self-sustainable and comprehensive model. So what I must mention is that all of these children receive therapy completely free of cost, regardless of their economic situation. The children in the community, children in the primary center, everyone receives therapy free of cost. If any of the parents want to donate any money to us, we do take it. As an organization, we also have the ATG certificate, which allows for tax exemption if anyone wants to donate. And we have the prior permission for FCRA funding for foreign funds as well. So we are hoping to be able to create a more comprehensive model where we become self-sustainable, some way of income, some way of paying the salaries of the staff, and of course, make a model that is replicable in other parts of the state and country as well. And the last disability survey was done more than 10 years ago before the organization was founded. We hope to do another survey once we find a team or the manpower to help us do it. And we hope to do neonatal screening at the hospital for early identification. And also the school readiness program that I mentioned earlier, it had come to a halt because there was a gap between the previous occupational therapist and me joining this organization. So that program came to a halt, and it's taken time, but we're hoping to relaunch that program and start an internal preschool for children. And of course, complete the school awareness program throughout the district, and in the future, God willing, reach other valleys and districts of Himachal Pradesh. Expand our team. Right now, there are only 4 of us as the primary therapists, 3 therapists and 1 special educator. We hope to be able to raise enough funds to increase our CBR workers, increase the number of therapists, because as of now, we have 60 children to 1 therapist ratio. So, divided among all of us. So, of course, in the future, God willing, and based on the funds, invest in our own permanent land. Right now, we're on a rented a rented building, to be able to complete our CBR training program. We have been registered under the PWD Act, but this year there were some revisions, so they require us to re-register, which is one of the reasons we needed to shift to a better building, which we have done recently. And we hope to affiliate with similar nonprofits to be able to build this network and to help this community become more inclusive for our children. So I'd like to talk about some opportunities that you could support. Of course, the major support that we require is your prayer. We require you to pray for our team and to help us build and grow and help these children to the best of our abilities. These pictures that you see now are our new therapy center. We're still in the process of setting it up. This whole week we've been completely dedicated to that. And these are the pictures that I was able to show you right now. Please continue to pray, and we hope that this comes to effect soon. We'll be able to resume our services next week. So I've put these prices that I've put here to support a child's therapy in their homes or support the child's therapy at the rehab center. the even though we provide therapy free of cost to the children, we look forward to people fundraise for not just to retain the staff that we have right now, but to be able to build and grow our therapy services throughout the district. So, of course, general donations, and we also have an Amazon wish list that's coming up, still not completed. Um, we welcome interns. You can come and intern with us. Based on the funds that we have, we will provide a stipend or accommodation at that point in time. You can come and volunteer with us. And this is not just limited to rehab therapists. It's not just limited to us, but it's also anyone, like anyone with some social media experience, photographers, anyone. We welcome you to come and volunteer with us, because it also helps us and you will have a life-changing experience. And of course, anyone who can help us in fundraising, giving us advice, suggestions, these are all ways that you can support. And of course, hopefully, when we have the funds and we're expanding the team, please do apply to join the team. And this is just one of our children who is sitting in a chair that I think the previous OT had made, but just a glimpse of the position that the children are in and the needs that exist. And it's going to take a lot of work, we know, but with God's help and with the team, we know that we'll be able to help them the best that we can. So this is a view of the valley, the things that the CBR needs to endure to visit these homes. They need to do a lot of hiking. A lot of these homes are remote, as I said before. And winter, of course, it gets very difficult. And please do come and visit Kullu Manali, and you're welcome to come and visit our center, even even just to visit and see what's happening. Enjoy the landscape, enjoy the scenery. So even if you're coming for vacation, please do drop by Handimachal Therapy Center. We're more than welcome to host you. You can follow our work on Facebook, Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, and our website is going to be launched next week. So that will be a place where you can keep up with us, our work that we're hoping to put everything on there, our blog, a donation platform where you can help us fundraise and even donate if you can, and just generally spread the awareness about our work. So yeah, do you have any questions or any suggestions that you could give us? And before you do, I want to thank you all for patiently listening. And I hope it was clear. I hope the connection was clear.
Thank you, Grace. Before we go on to the question session, I just would like to say that very proud listening to what you've been saying. And I'm proud that I was able to be a teacher. It's great when your students use what you have taught them, then use that to place their own paths. My first question, Grace, to you will be, you know about the Sarva Shishya Abhiyan. So according to that, the children with special needs are supposed to be integrated into the school system in every district. But we know that that doesn't actually happen at the ground level. So do you have any tie-ups or any communication at all with the government agencies regarding this? And do your children get disability benefits and certificates, which again is supposed to be done according to the SSA?
So thank you, ma'am. And thank you for being one of the teachers who really inspired and helped me come to this level. But to answer your question, we do visit. So a lot of the work, the groundwork is done primarily by the therapists at the center. We used to have a social worker, but we don't right now. So we personally have been trying to make connections. Like I have visited the welfare office, the persons with disability welfare officer, to ask about the disability survey, to ask them what they can help us with, what they provide. Like you said, on the ground level, many of the children, though they are registered namesake in schools, they actually do not attend. And there are many children, most of our children right now, we have helped them get the disability certificate so they can get their monthly pension. But there are still many children who are struggling with receiving that certificate. So we hope to continue, to build that relationship with the government officials and get these things done. There also recently I found out that the Ministry of Social Justice provides grants for children, um, scholarships for children attending school, and also grants for such organizations. So we're hoping to look further into that as well to help our children. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you. As you're saying, a lot of the children are from a low SES, so even a little money will go a long way towards improving their quality of life.
Yeah.
So I'll open the floor for further questions now.
Okay, thank you.
One of the reasons why we thought of having this webinar was because we were getting a lot of queries from people who were doing their bond or students who were going to do their bond in secondary care settings where a complete hospital was not available. So, especially the students, if any of you are there, please feel free to just ask any questions. I think there are no best contact with us or Grace so that she can help you with the queries. Thank you all once again for attending and see you next month, next webinar. Have a nice week. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.